welcome back to Current Events Unplugged. I'm your host, Rachel. Today we'll be talking about long-distance relationships. We have a special guest here with us today who has expert advice to share with us about how long-distance relationships stay strong and what complications can arise in one. Let's welcome our guest, Hunter. How are we doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
That's great to hear. I'm doing very well. Now, let's get started. I've heard that you're in a long-distance relationship. How's the relationship going, and have there been any complications since it's long distance?
I have been in a relationship for 5 years now, and it's going great.
That's great to hear. And was this your first relationship, or have you had other relationship experiences before?
No, this is not my first relationship. My previous relationships have gone really badly, but they were also not long distance, and there were a lot of inconveniences throughout those relationships and within them. And the match between me and my previous partners was not compatible.
Oh, that sucks to hear, but at least you're in a healthy relationship now. Now, I have asked listeners to write in some questions they may have for the podcast, or if they wanted any advice for their long-distance relationships.
That's a wonderful idea. Let's hear some of them.
Other than distance, what are some major differences between a long-distance relationship and other closer distance relationships?
There's a lot of differences when it comes to long distance relationships than normal relationships. One being the physical connection you feel with your partner in person. Then the emotional connection you feel with your partner who's far away. I think having that emotional connection with your partner creates more of an understanding of one another and teaches someone how to be grateful for what they have even if they can't have it every day. People who are in relationships who aren't struggling with long distance take advantage of how much they get to see their partner and aren't grateful for the time that's spent with them than the people who are in long distance relationships.
There are downsides to long distance relationships, but what are some upsides to them?
The downside of a long distance relationship is not being physically with your partner and learning how to communicate effectively. I know for some people it's a struggle to learn how to communicate and try to promote their boundaries throughout a long distance relationship. But if either one or both partners fail to communicate, then that is when a long distance relationship will fail and problems will arise. The upside of a long distance relationship, in my personal experience, is a feeling of seeing your partner in person or just finding things to do with them while being apart. For example, movie night every Friday is a great way to lighten the mood and have an enjoyable time with your partner, even if it means about arguing about what movie to watch. All in all, long distance relationships truly grows and strengthens your partner's connection because there are sacrifices. All in all, the long distance relationship truly grows and strengthens your relationship because there are sacrifices needed to be made and commitments, as well as truly shows whether your partner is the right one for you.
Is it easier to tell if a relationship is healthy or not when the relationship is long distance?
There are signs that can tell you whether the relationship is healthy or not healthy. One of them being a lack of communication, along with the lack of trust in your partner, can cause a falling out or even lead to splitting up. In any relationship, a lack of trust with one another is unhealthy and should be causing issues in a relationship because you should trust one another and you should be able to communicate with each other effectively in order to communicate your feelings and have an understanding of your partner.
Can a long distance relationship be abusive?
Yes, a long distance relationship can be abusive. It is a misconception that many people have that abuse is only physical, but abuse can be shown in so many other ways. Emotional and verbal abuse is just as big of an issue, if not more, because sometimes realizing that you are being abused is harder. If you are noticing signs of abuse in your relationship or long distance relationship, seek out help, and if you are noticing this in someone else's relationship, reach out and make sure that they are okay.
If you are in an abusive or unhealthy relationship, is it easier to leave with a long distance?
Even though leaving an abusive or unhealthy relationship is hard, leaving one that is a long distance is easier. The main factor that makes it easier is that it is a long distance relationship and there is no physical bond and you haven't made that connection with them physically, so you don't have that. You don't, like,
The psychological
you don't have
aspect
the
to
psychological
it.
aspect to
Yeah.
it. Which makes a person more independent from their significant other and makes the act of leaving a relationship easier. Even though you do love them, if you are being abused, you should seek help and get the help you need and leave that relationship.
Yeah. How do you know if a long distance relationship is working or not?
If you're feeling insecure and you're overthinking and second guessing the relationship, that is when you have to consider the possibility that the relationship is not working out. Before like taking the action to break up with them, talking and having a conversation with your partner about your feelings and about their feelings is necessary in order to solve this issue. If the issue cannot be solved and only leads to bigger problems, that is when you need to break things off in order to have a peaceful life without having stress or anger built up inside you about that relationship.
Yeah. Some people say that long distance relationships aren't as real as other relationships because of the physical separation. Is this true or is it not?
A relationship is a relationship, whether it be in person or long distance, whether it is across the province or across the country or even across continents. Being in a relationship is a choice, not something that is chosen for you. So no matter if there is a physical connection or not, there is still a relationship because you still love one another. Physical connection isn't what makes up the entirety of a relationship, but to have a good connection and being safe and along with trusting your partner is very important in a relationship, and it's what you should have. Yes, having a physical, having that physical feeling with your partner feels good, but it's not necessary in order for you to have a relationship to work or even be healthy.
Yeah, but also, that's in like any relationship, right? You need to have like that emotional bond more than the physical, I feel
like having that emotional bond with your partner really lets you in on their life and really lets you understand who your partner is as a person and not just physically being there with them.
Well, obviously, like a balance of both is good in
any relationship. Yes, it shouldn't just be one-sided, but in the long distance,
especially because of the lack of the physical aspect of it, you need like
you need
make up with
more emotional.
With more, yeah. Well, so our time will be ending shortly, but it has truly been a pleasure to have you here with us on the podcast, Hunter. I'm sure the listeners have learned much about long-distance relationships and how they work, and talking about your own might have given some hope to some of our listeners today. Talking about things like relationships is important to me, as many of our listeners are at that age where hearing about it will, make it impactful. So thank you again, Hunter.
Well, no problem. It's been my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me here today on your podcast.
Well, this was it for our podcast today. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you all next week with a new topic.